each day that passed in lockdown caused by COVID-19 pandemic, my stress levels increased, I started to feel more anxious, and the feeling of sadness went from hours to days at a time. At first, I thought these feelings were arising due to being locked inside the house. However, I quickly noticed that since the beginning of lockdown, my social media usage had quadrupled as I went from an hour and a half to 6 hours a day on social media. I quickly realized that social media addiction is no joke. Today in this speech, I want to discuss the reasons why social media is so addictive and the detrimental effects on social media addiction can have to one's mental well-being. In today's age, social media platforms are ingrained in everyone's lives. As article Number of Global Social Network Users 2017 to 2025 published by J. Clement on July 15th, 2020 on Statistica.com indicates that in 2020 over 3.6 billion people were using social media worldwide, as I'm sure most of you listening right now have some form of social media. Hopefully with my speech today, I can make you aware about the dangers of social media's addiction and make you reevaluate your relationship with your social media platforms as whether they're influencing your mental state in a negative manner. I will proceed to discuss about social media addiction as we dig into the motivations of why these social media platforms want to keep you hooked, the methods these platforms use to make it so addictive, and the content found in social media that lead to poor mental health, and lastly, the solutions to help reduce your social media usage. I'm going to start this discussion by firstly talking about the problems and causes of social media addiction and how it affects one's mental well-being. Social media is now deeply ingrained in most people's daily lives. However, there isn't much awareness about how truly addictive these platforms can be and how social media addiction can lead to some very serious mental health problems. As article The FOMO is Real, How Social Media Increases Depression and Loneliness, written by Gigi Mimosa on December 10, 2018 on Healthline.com, suggests that studies have linked the use of social media to depression, anxiety, poor sleep quality, low self-esteem, and hyperactivity. Now, to understand why social media is so addictive, we must first learn why these social media platforms want to keep you hooked. Most social media platforms are free to use, so how do they make money? The answer, advertisement. According to the author Hilary Anderson, who wrote an article on the BBC.com website on the 3rd of July 2018 named Social Media Are Deliberately Addictive to Users, tells us that social media's business models is designed to engage you and to basically suck all your time and energy as possible so they can try to sell the attention to the advertisers. So the more you engage, the more profit they make. So now that we know the intentions of why social media platforms want to keep you hooked, what methods do these platforms use that make it so addictive? There are two main features they use. The first one is referred as to infinite scrolling, where they get rid of any stopping cues that might make you suggest that you should stop. Therefore, you're kept engaged for hours on end. The second is the like feature, which according to Catherine Price on the article The Secret Way Social Media is Built to be Addictive, written on the 29th of October 2018 on sciencefocus.com, takes advantage of both our desires for social validation and our love of seeing our score. Lastly, the social media platform content consists mainly of friends and people you know. Now, when people post, they carefully pick, arrange, and curate the pictures in order to display perfection. This constant stream of glamorous life makes you compare yourself to others, prompting low self-esteem and depression. Now that we know about the problems and causes of social media addiction and the harm this addiction can have to one's mental well-being, we can move on to the solutions to tackle to social media addiction and the ways to reduce social media usage. There are two ways you can tackle social media addiction. The first one tackles the root of the problem, which is trying to make social media platforms more ethical, as there is a proposed law in Congress called Camera Act, which according to the article New Legislation is Putting Social Networks in the Crosshairs, written by Casey Newton on August 1st, 2019 on Verge.com, the bill would promote a data-driven approach to investigating the idea of social media addiction. So by writing to your local government representatives, and getting this law passed, it would be a huge step into the investigation and spreading awareness of social media addiction. The second step you can take is if you want to reduce your social media usage, which there are two approaches you can take. The first one is the one that I took, which is to go completely cold turkey on social media. However, I do understand that for most people this would be very difficult to do, as social media is hugely ingrained in our lifestyles. Therefore, you could use the second method, which is to put reasonable time restrictions on your usage and to put your phone away when you have to present in day-to-day life. Hopefully with my speech today you have learned how social media addiction is created by the motivation of social media platforms to sell your attention for profit, which lead to these platforms using methods like infinite scrolling and like buttons, and to make platforms extremely addictive. And that social media content is mainly false glorified perception of life that makes you feel depressed. By trying to get the Camera Act passed, we can begin to spread awareness of the dangers of social media addiction, and if you're concerned about your own usage, you can use the solutions that I provided. The decision I made to go cold turkey on social media has been the best decision I've made for my mental health, as I'm feeling as best as I ever has, as I fully appreciate what the real world has to offer.